What's up, guys? So I'm back, and today what I'm going to be doing is we're going to be changing up a little bit. So recently I've been making videos, all education videos talking about just like things that you should learn when trading small caps. But today I figured I'd change it up and actually make a video about a play that I've been in and talking about and swinging and mentioning quite a few times. So uh, the swing that I'm in, and this is the largest penny position that I'm in currently right now, is DGLY. So I'm gonna just go through like a couple things as to like what I look for in a penny when I swing it. Uh, if you guys don't know, I kind of pretty much only play pennies for the most part, and if there's a couple of things that I look for when I'm debating on how heavy I can size in and how comfortable I am holding it over a extended period of time, because of course none of these are long-term holds. They're never the next Apple. They're never going to go to $100 or $20, anything like that. But we buy them to flip them and make money on it. So I'll get right into it. So DGLY, the first thing that I do is I go on FinViz, right? I've made videos about this before, but just to give you a quick rundown, FinViz I use as a screener. Anything that you see on FinViz about market cap, the float, anything like that, short interest, it's always wrong. So if you are looking at a stock, uh, this was a good example, SPGC. Uh, it said that the short was like 170%. It's not right on here, because what happens with FinViz is it doesn't take into account dilution and everything like that, and it doesn't update. So the only thing that you should really rely on FinViz for is the screener part. It's the best screener and most user-friendly one that I have and use, and it's free. You don't have to pay for anything. They have a premium version, but honestly, you really don't need it. So when you go in, I look at the cheapest price stocks, right? So we'll sort it by price. So I go through here, and you see the top 20 cheapest stocks, right, are start from 4 cents to 16. Uh, let's say 16. There's 22 stocks in the entire stock market under 16 cents. Now I usually like to do 20, just because it's more of a round number, like 15, 20, 10. I go by five. So if you go by 20, there's only 37 stocks in the whole stock market that are under 20 cents, right? So the first thing that you do is you want to rule out the ones that either have a reverse split approved or they have a reverse split coming up in a short period of time. So when I go through, I could tell you right off the bat, like LICN, Lichen, they now did a reverse split. I believe it starts on Monday. BAT has a reverse split vote today. Clue announced a reverse split. ADTX has a reverse split vote today. It goes on and on, right? UPC has a reverse split vote on Monday. So when I go through, I go, okay, so there's five stocks under 10 cents in the entire stock market. I'm sorry. Yes, there's five stocks in the entire stock market under 5 cents. Out of these five stocks, just without even looking at the stock itself, DGLY is the only one that does not have a reverse split approved, and they do not have one they don't have a reverse split vote for over a month, because I don't believe it's until April 10th. So if I'm talking about the safest stocks to buy, just without even looking at share structure or anything like that, DGLY is the safest stock to buy. I'm not going to buy and hold BAT because they have a reverse split vote today, and they could technically announce it anytime. Just so you guys know, a little quick piece of info. When a company approves a reverse split, at any time the time comes that they do announce it, what they call effective, they need to give at least 2 days notice for it to be effective. So if the company announced it on Monday and they said we're doing a reverse split, they need to wait at least 2 trading days before that reverse split vote's effective. Ideally, you want it to be like a week out because you could play the run. But in any case, this just so you know. So anyway, after today, these four stocks, half of them already announced reverse split. The other half could do a reverse split at any time. So I'm not really going to buy and hold these so much because it's too much risk. So DGLY, being the only stock under 10 cents in the in the entire stock market, doesn't have a reverse split vote for over 4 weeks. That's a long time for a stock listed at 7 cents to run. So for me, right there, that's a big check. Okay. Then I'll start going through one by one, right? How many of these have reverse split votes? A lot of them have them coming up, right? So Aon's not here. They already did it. OSHA has theirs on 328. That's why a lot of people are talking about this now, because it's over a month away. So there's so much time for it to be ran. AHL has compliance until April 30th, I believe. UPC has a reverse split vote on Monday. LGHL has the reverse split vote next week. And it just goes on and on, right? So Omega's a bankrupt. So if you really go through one by one, there's really not that many stocks that are that safe, right? As pennies that I would be comfortable swinging. So that's the first thing that I look at when I do it. So I go, okay, so very rarely do you get this situation where you have one stock that could be basically the only stock, because come Tuesday or Wednesday, these two stocks will be gone, and there will only be 3 stocks in the whole stock market under 10 cents, right? So when retail goes to trade pennies, a lot of times they'll start from the cheapest up, right? So what's the best cheapest one? DGLY. Now let's go into a little bit more about the ticker and some details about why it dropped and what happened. So DGLY did an offering. The offering honestly was not the best. It was technically a $300 million offering, a 300 million share offering. If you go down, because you have, they issued 100 million shares that they diluted instantly, and then they have another 100 million that requires shareholder approval. So all in all, it'll be about 300, but right now it effective was about 100. And they're probably diluting a little bit, on top of that as well, of course. But anyway, 100 million shares is for a 7-cent stock is not a lot. BAT just ran to 14 cents, and that share structure is 500 million, right? ADTX just ran to 15 cents. That share structure is well over 250 million, right? The share structure itself is not bad at all, okay? They have a ton of cash. They actually have been putting news out. They just did one the other day that they got 6 patents issued by them. To me, that's great. It doesn't really make a difference to me personally, one way or another. I think the news is just something that is used to bring volume in and maybe speed the process up. But it wasn't really, honestly, I didn't even know this was going to happen. And it wasn't really like a catalyst that was a decision, influenced my decision of whether or not I'm going to swing this. So when we go into this, right, we look at the two things. Now, I talked about this on Twitter, but when they did the offering, they had these 2 warrants that were issued at shareholder approval. So they had already approved a reverse split going back a little while ago, I believe. They approved a reverse split. But when they issued this, did this offering and they issued these warrants and these shareholder approval, I was saying this, what they're going to need to do, even though they had a reverse split vote on, however many months ago, they're going to need to do another shareholder meeting because they're going to need to get these reverse splits approved. So just going, deeper level into this is they ended up filing the, right, here, sorry, the 14A, saying that it's going to be held on April 1st. And that'll be for when they approve another reverse split, which they essentially are amending to a higher number from the last one, and to approve those warrants. So even though they had the reverse split approved beforehand, you knew that they were going to issue out another vote to do it, because they needed to have one to get these shareholder warrants approved. So when you guys are looking at stocks that do offerings and have Series A or B warrants require shareholder approval, a lot of times they won't file for a shareholder meeting, sometimes for a couple of weeks. So just look out for that, because more times than not, if not every time, they're going to need to file one of those shareholder meetings, because they're going to have to get those warrants approved. And to do that after a reverse split and to sell all those shares is it's just not possible, right? So more than likely what they'll do is they'll let this run until, April 1st, which by then they'll approve the increase in their authorized shares. They'll, exercise these warrants, and honestly, they'll probably just tank the stock. But until then, we have 4 weeks of basically free game here, right? We have a couple of 13Gs that were filed, which are great. But you have basically free range on the stock for the next 4 weeks, which is super, super bullish to me, because I love stocks that are, very rarely do you get stocks that do that do offerings with shareholder approval warrants under 10 cents. The only ones that really I remember off the top of my head were Rhyme, Ion. Those were under 10 cents. Those ran absolutely huge. HEPA was one that ran huge, but that didn't go, under 10 cents. That was about 10 or 12. So these shareholder approval warrants usually end up being big rippers, in my experience, right? So let's go into the chart. I'll tell you a little bit more about what I'm looking at and, what I've talked to the Discord about. So just really quick, I've been talking about DGLY for a while now. I won't go through every message, but, I sent this in yesterday that, because the market's been flushing every morning, I likely added again. This was I posted a screenshot of my position then, and my other swing. I said I filled DGLY here. I filled DGLY again last night. I actually filled a little bit more tonight, in the low sevens, because this is what happened. So I just wanted to show that. So going into the chart. So this is the hourly chart, and the first thing you do is you draw levels, right? So I'm looking at where are my resistance and levels that like support that I want to add it. So bottom all-time low pretty much was in the low 727, 725. I mean, it briefly came down to the sixes, but it basically instantly got eaten back up, and a lot of that could have even been algos. So you see that it's kind of bounced off this 727-ish number multiple times. So for me, at least as of now, of course, anything could change, but I'll say that this is pretty much retail's bottom on this stock, and it's just fighting this downtrend right here, okay? So the reason I like this is because if you learn how to play pennies correctly, you have multiple runs at this, right? So the first time you get that offering drop, you could have bought it, and it could have ran for you. Just do this for you. It would have ran 60%. You could have bought it again here at the support, sold it for another 25%. And now it's coming back down, and it's getting up to that loaded levels, right? Last time it came down here, it hit over 11. So the reason I like swinging these and I'm comfortable swinging it so heavy is because if you're able to draw your levels and be patient, you're really at very little risk, right? So my average right now is in the low 8s. My average is actually 8.2. I always say you take a portion, scale it out on the pops. This week has been pretty rough, so those pops may only be, the morning flush to the high of day, which could be a 10% gainer. So whatever size that you're playing with, take a percentage of that and scale out those 10% pops, because it adds up. If you do it 4 or 5 times, you just did, basically 5 trades at 10%, and it makes your trading on swinging on this much, less stress-free. So if you add around these low levels, right, you have, like, for instance, my average is 0.82, okay? I already have filled some, and I have more bids in as I'm making this video in the 7.3s. So again, my average would even come down, but let's just say my average was 8.2. If I hold it down, I'm down 10%. So from here to basically all-time lows, I'm down 10%. Now, it'll be probably more like 7%, 6% after I add down here because my average will come down. But for me, it's like, what's the risk? I'm basically holding a stock that has no risk of compliance or reverse split for the next month at the all-time low bottom. And at worst case, if I, tie, at worst case from my average, I'll be holding it down 5% or 6%, even let's just say 7%, if it just stood at the all-time low number forever, right? Until that time. Because if it broke below, more than likely you just end up cutting it, right? But again, not financial advice, but within a month, there is almost a 0% chance the stock does not bounce from its all-time lows. It's just never going to happen because you look at all these other charts. Let's just take BAT for an example, right? Look at how many times BAT has ran, right? BATs came down to, like, if you just played these levels, okay? Let's just take 4 or 5. I'm just doing this really quickly while I'm on. If you added down 4 or 5, right? First off, it ran 4 or 5 and it did a massive run to 14. But it came down to 4 or 5, 3 5s here, went up to 7. Came down to 3 5 again, ran to 6. Came down to 4 5 again, ran to 14. Came down again, ran to 8. Like, these pennies are very liquid, so they're not. It doesn't just sit down here this entire time, right? It's not just sitting in this channel of 5 cents nonstop for a month. It just doesn't happen. It has its pops, and of course it has its drops. So your plan is that you want to buy as low as you can to those support levels because you're just playing these pops. And then eventually when the volume kicks in, they run huge. So what I'm looking at on DGLY is I have a stock under 10 cents with a, let's just say, mid 100 mil float. It's the cheapest stock of the stock exchange that does not have a reverse split approved or coming in the next month. So if I'm buying any stock to swing, why would I buy any stock here? Why would I buy this over DGLY? It doesn't make any sense. Why would I do that even without looking at it, just knowing that this is the safest one long term to hold, right? And when I say long term, I'm saying in the next 30 days. And I go through one by one, right? So maybe EFSH doesn't have that issue, but why would I buy this at 100 mil float when I could buy DGLY that is the same similarity of not having any compliance issues, but it's half of the price? So why would I buy this stock over this? Now, this stock has a history itself, so we won't get into that. But this is like my thought process on things when I'm buying these pennies. I look through them all and I go, all right, well, if this stock is 18 cents and the float is 95 mil, and it's they have no shareholder meeting coming up for the next month, but then you have DGLY that has basically the exact same situation, but it's a third of the price or half of the price. You got to look at that and be like, something's not adding up here. Either the market just has not found this yet, or this is super undervalued. So that's why I think that as of right now, DGLY is super undervalued. The other thing that I like is you have 2 gaps up. You have a gap up here at 20, like right under 20 cents. You have a gap up here around 13.5. So you look at the daily, it's like, all right, so it's making a double bottom now. It's still, it's right at the support line, this downtrend break on the hourly that I'm looking at, or even like the 4 hour. Okay. So a lot of times they need to come back down. They make that trend line tighter, and then they ultimately end up finally breaking that trend line and making highs. So I just wanted to hop in here. I wanted to talk about this ticker. I wanted to put it on your radar, see it, just so that you know this is my biggest swing by far right now. Of course, anything can change. I could get stopped out. I could be completely wrong. I am not right 100% of the time. I wanted to put this out just so that you guys have it on your radar. Feel free to, let me know your thoughts and feedback. But that's what I'm looking for this. Personally, I really would love a run back to 11 and a half again. But ideally, I would love to fill these gaps, because over this high of 11.5 here, I'm seeing 13.5, and then past 13.5, I'm seeing this gap fill to 19. And retail, if retail wants it to go, it will go. And a lot of times they come for things like this, in my experience. So again, this is my biggest swing right now. This is what I'm talking about. It's DGLY. Honestly, what they do and what their business is, it's really not that important to me. What I like though is that they've been issuing press releases like here. They just put out 6 patents. They have 41 months in cash. They have a $20 million in cash. What are they going to do with that cash? Are we going to get another get another PR over the next month? To bring news into it. The news itself isn't even necessarily usually so important. It's just that the news serves as like as a catalyst to bring the volume in that's needed to break it out. And honestly, if I like looking at the daily, it's dropping down on super low volume. To me, that's not bad. Like today, 30 million volume. Like the last 3 days, 30 million volume. That's not that much selling. I mean, you look back at what it was doing. It was doing over 100 million every single day. Now it's like now it's around 30. That's half the volume, a third of the volume. It's just, part of it is because the market's been so slow this week, but this gets another 250. I mean, even one of those like crazy 350, 450 million volume days, this thing's going to 20 cents. And I'll always scale out pops on this. You always want to be safe. If I add down here, if this pot's back up to mid 9s, I may trim, just a small portion just to, keep myself, not to have myself over leveraged or anything like that. But I mean, you guys, if you know me, you know me from like M Goal, from Ian, Rhyme, like all those where I would talk about this. I mean, I like to make the big gains on this stuff. So if it's there and the volume's in, I mean, don't rule it out. I really think that it could happen. So, again, it's DGLY. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you on Monday.